Well, thank you, Marty. The new G4 can cost, what, $2,400?
Something like that.
So
$16.99 for the low end.
Kevin Rose went out and you built an OS 10 compatible PC.
I did.
You did.
Let me show you what I did. Here's actually the running machine.
It's running.
And this is the final product sitting there. It looks like a PC, but actually it has Macintosh components inside of it, and it's running OS 10.2.
But it's not a Mac, though.
It's not a Mac. It doesn't have the Mac case. It is all Mac components that actually Apple does sell. Well, they don't sell them directly, but you can find third party that do sell them.
How did you track down all these parts?
That's the tricky part. The tricky part is finding all the components. I'll show you the first component we have here. This is the actual motherboard of the G4, and we got this from a place called Mac Rescue. And this is a standard G4 motherboard. It has the 10100 LAN on the side, USB ports, audio, everything a standard motherboard would have.
Okay.
That's the first component. I was able to track that down. After that, we go over here to the processor, and this is the core of the operating system. This is actually, or the operating system, the core of the computer. This is the 1 gigahertz with 2 megs of cache Sonnet processor. And
so is that actually an upgrade processor?
That is an upgrade processor because you cannot buy these components directly from Apple.
Okay.
They won't sell you a processor if you go to apple.com.
Okay.
So I actually bought an upgrade processor from them, and then I went. You actually have to find a CPU cooling fan as well for the processor because they're thinking it's an upgrade. They're thinking you already have the CPU cooling.
But you don't.
You don't because you're building one from scratch.
Where did you find it? Because normally people don't really build these for, nobody really overclocks a Mac.
No, they don't. So what I did is I took a standard PC CPU cooling fan. This is the Volcano 6 from Thermotake. And it's really important. What you have to find here is you have to find one that will actually mount to the top and sit above. You see there's a lot of different circuitry that's sticking out here. You have to find one that will sit on mount on there correctly. And actually, the clip here, that's not going to work. You got to yank that out and find another way to kind of fasten it down to the CPU. I've seen you do with rubber bands, zip ties, any way that you can find to mount this down. Whether it be zip ties or whatever, as long as there's a good solid connection between the CPU.
You're getting creative at that point.
You are getting creative. This is where it becomes really tricky.
Sketchy.
Definitely sketchy.
How about RAM?
RAM, go to Crucial.com, and I would just select the Apple, and then choose the G4 configuration, and it'll suggest standard PC133 RAM. If you have some PC133 laying around the house, you can use that as well. Just go on there, and it's really inexpensive. You can get a 250 meg stick for like $30. Next to nothing for PC133.
Should you go with ATI or NVIDIA for graphics?
Well, I could have gone with NVIDIA. I was trying to, but I found a really nice ATI board that I liked that had S-Video out. This is not the board. The board that actually I put in my system is right here. It's the Radeon 8500, which is right here. It has S-Video on the back and also has the ADC connector for the Apple flat panel displays. But you can go with any. You actually have to go with a Mac-compatible video card. You can't just go out to the PC store and buy your standard ATI.
Just because it plugs into a PCI slot doesn't mean it'll run in a Mac.
Doesn't mean it'll work. Okay. So that you have to get. You can still pick those up anywhere though. CompUSA, anywhere, ATI.com.
You could yank your hard drive, your DVD, your CD, or W.
Any hard drive, any CD-ROM, you're fine as long as it's standard ATA hard drive and CD-ROM. I went with the Western Digital WD800, which is their special edition drive that has the 8 megs of cache. That is just an awesome hard drive. It gives us a nice little 10-15% performance increase with that extra cache, and it works great on the Macs as well.
So this looked like it was a nightmare to find. This is a special Macintosh power supply.
Well, this is an ATX power supply. This is not the Macintosh one. The Macintosh one that I actually purchased is in here. But I was just going to show you the difference here. If you take a look at the connector here of a standard ATX, it's a 20-pin connector, and you can notice here there's 2 extra pins at the end that Apple has added in there. And I'll tell you why they added those later. But you're not going to be able to use the standard ATX power supply.
Okay. Where'd you score the Mac keyboard and mouse?
Now, that is the one component you can buy from Apple.com.
Really?
Yeah, you can go on there, and they actually sell the Pro keyboards and the Pro mice. And you can buy it straight from the Apple store, or you can also go to eBay if you want to save a few bucks and purchase it off there as well. And you can also get the power supply, I forgot to mention, off of eBay as well.
How much is the power supply?
Power supply is going to cost you what a standard 300-watt ATX would, 60, 70 bucks, somewhere around there. Nothing too crazy.
So what do we have next? The Antec case is standard ATX case?
This is a standard ATX case. Now, the problem that we ran into, though, is that the Apple motherboard is not an ATX motherboard.
Ah!
So one thing I'll show you here is that I haven't actually have another. This is a standard ATX motherboard here. Now, this is the standard motherboard that you'd use with any x86 compatible PC. If you notice these pins, these holes here to screw in screws, this is standard on every single ATX case. These holes here on the motherboard are not going to align with the holes here in the case.
Okay.
So you're running into a big problem there.
So you would actually have to pick up additional motherboard mounting screws and basically glue them or epoxy them in place. Or
what I did is I picked up one of these right here. Take a look at that. And I screwed that into the case there, into the ATX holes. And
what is that if I'm shopping?
I have no idea what they call it.
A little plastic thingy from your hardware store.
From Home Depot or something like that.
Got it.
You stick one of the
zip
ties all the way through, and then you can actually take that through one of the holes here in the corner.
So you zip tied your motherboard
into the case. And if you look inside here, I'll show you how it's zip tied in there. There's the actual zip tie in place holding the motherboard in. And you can see it working there. Now, there's another option.
Okay.
One thing you can do is you can take this motherboard, you can hold it in the case, and you can take a little red pen like a Sharpie here, and you take the Sharpie and you stick it through and you mark all the holes and where they're at, and so that it'll actually leave marks on the case. And what you do is you take one of these here, you drill a small hole, and this is an actual tap, so you can put a screw hole in there. You tap it in there. I got this from Yoshi, actually. He uses it all the time. Create the screw hole, and then you can actually create so you can mount it, hard mount it to the case itself. Better than using glue, better than using zip ties.
We are running out of time. What happened the first time you tried to boot it?
First time I had to boot it, everything went fine. It booted up just fine. Basically, what you have to do is stick in OS 10.2, hold down C, it'll boot from the CD-ROM, and it'll just install just fine. And it's nice. It's running great, and it's a great little machine.
What are you going to do with the power switch?
The power switch, actually, I have a wiring diagram, so you can use a standard PC power switch as well. This is just one that I found off an old Mac, and it was just that much easier just to connect it.
So this is a single 1 gigahertz processor motherboard.
Correct.
If you built, they don't even sell 1 gig, a single CPU machine anymore.
Apple doesn't, no.
What would happen if you built a dual CPU machine?
If that's going to be really tricky. You're going to have to get a bigger bigger heatsink for it. But you can do it. They do sell dual processor motherboards, and you can just pick up another Sonnet 1 gigahertz chip. And it would work fine. You really have to focus on cooling. You're going to have to put an extra fan on top of there and just make sure that you really keep that CPU cool because it's get really hot.
Are you going to save any money at that point over a new G4?
That's a good question. Actually, you might save a few bucks, but you're going to put a lot of time and energy into it. So it all depends on how much your time's worth and whether or not you want to really tinker around with this and worry about actually how you're going to mount it. And it's a project. It's a lot harder than building a PC.
This is a geek's project.
This is a geek's project for sure.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend it to like the basic, first-time computer builder. This is not
if you
your
want to
project.
switch to a Mac, this is not the way to switch.
Go buy an iMac or an iBook or something like that. Do not build it. But if you're a geek and you really like to geek out and get in there with the tools, this is the way to go.
Would you do it again?
Sure. I'd definitely do it again. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, actually, with tapping the holes and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely worth trying.
It's definitely worth trying.
Yeah.
Article up at the Screensavers?
Yep, it's on there right now.
Screensavers.com. This man suffered in building this computer. You want to build your own computer, run OS 10, find out where to buy the parts, how he did it. It's all up at the Screensavers.com. Good stuff. Good stuff.